Welcome to Ask a Lawyer with the attorneys at Hepworth Holzer, life-changing law in Boise, Idaho. Today, it's John Edwards. John Edwards has worked in personal injury litigation for 25 plus years, first representing insurers in injury claims, then representing injured citizens. John answers your questions about the law and how it affects you.
John, who pays my medical bills and lost wages after I'm injured in an accident?
Steve, that's a question that I answer daily. We all kind of have in our head this idea that it's the other guy's fault. He's going to have to pay those damages. And the answer to that is yes, he is. But the bad guy, the guy who caused the wreck, doesn't pay damages until the end of the case. So the question really is, hey, until I get to the end of the case, Steve, who's going to pay those? And the answer is the first insurer to pay is going to be your own automobile insurance. Your insurance will step up and pay the medical bills up to the limits of your medical payments coverage, whether that's $1,000 or $2,000 or $5,000 or $10,000. They will pay up until that amount is exhausted. And that's a per person amount. So if you and me and our two children are in the wreck, then each of those are going to have access to the full amount of that medical payments coverage. Once that coverage is exhausted for any person, then that person's health insurer is going to step in and pay their medical bills. Now, people all the time, Steve, they say, well, why should my insurance pay? Well, it's because that's what you've contracted for them to do. You've bought insurance so that you are protected in the event you're hit by somebody. Your insurance pays. Then when you go to the end of the case and you get money from the bad guy or his insurer, you have a contractual obligation to reimburse your auto carrier for the medical payments that they made and your health insurer for the payments that they made. Now, if you're working with the right lawyer, they're generally able to negotiate a discount on what you reimburse those groups, whether it be the health insurer or the medical payments auto insurance carrier. That's the order of payment, though. And people all the time are a little sideways. It doesn't seem that my insurance should be paying for the bad guy's problem. But that's precisely why you buy that coverage, so that you're not paying for it while you're waiting to resolve your case.
Here's a term that I heard, subrogate. What does that mean?
Well, it's a big fancy word for promise to pay back. On your auto policy, and any auto policy, you have a provision that says your insurance will pay, like your medical payments coverage. But it says, hey, if you go out and get money from the bad guys, you promise to pay us back the money that we paid for you, so that you're not recovering that money from your insurance as well as from the bad guy and his insurance. You don't get a double recovery. Your health insurance also has a subrogation provision. Sometimes it can be confused or used identically with the term reimbursement provision. The reimbursement or subrogation provision in your health policy says, hey, listen, if you've incurred medical expenses and you've exhausted your underlying auto coverage, then we, the health insurer, will step in and pay your bills. But you have to promise that if you get money from the bad guys, you'll reimburse us what we've paid. So that's what subrogation is. It gives them the right to stand in your shoes and collect that money. When you hire a lawyer, your lawyer generally collects that money and then reimburses them. A good lawyer will be able to reimburse them an amount less than what they paid in many occasions.
Okay, so that's one way you help me. What else do you do if I've been in an accident? How can you help me?
Well, I tell you, people all the time, Steve, this is an overwhelming event for somebody. They're injured and they're dealing with pain and they're dealing with anxiety and concern about what's going to happen. It is a hard and scary time. Most people have not navigated these waters before, and so it's also something highly unfamiliar to them. What we can do is we can take care of everything other than the person's healing. I tell people all the time, your job from today forward is to meet with your doctors, do the things that they tell you to do to get better. Everything else I'll handle. And I see all the time, many times people have cried, just they're so relieved to have that weight off of their shoulders. So we take over the handling of their claim. There's no more dealing with their health insurer for them. There's no more dealing with the bad guy's auto insurer. There's no more dealing with their own auto insurer. We take over all of that. We guide and follow them through their treatment and help them get the care that they need. When they're all done, we're in a position then to evaluate their claim and give them an idea of what kind of value there is in it for their wage loss, for their medical expenses, for property damages that have not been reimbursed, and for the way this event, this terrible event, has impacted their life. Some people call those pain and suffering damages. They're general damages that are really a change in the way your life was moving before the wreck versus after the wreck, and your inability to do the things you normally do. And we help them understand how juries value that and then negotiate, in most cases, negotiate a settlement with the other company's the other driver's insurance to compensate people for those damages.
Thanks for listening to Ask a Lawyer with the attorneys at Hepworth Holzer, life-changing law in Boise, Idaho. Join us next time as they answer your questions about the law and how it affects you. They can be reached at 208-343-7510 or hepworthholzer.com.